This program is brought to you in association with First National Bank of Botswana.
FNB, how can we help you?
The diamond country. Botswana ranks in the top 3 largest producers of diamonds in the whole world. Ever since independence, the country has been known for its diamonds. Naturally, this precious mineral has been the pillar on which Botswana's economy stands. But over the years, the over-reliance on diamonds has proven burdensome. Take, for example, when the pandemic hit, almost all mining activity of diamonds was halted and sales were at an all-time low. A period of revelation on the importance of seriously looking into ways of economic diversification. This means looking into sustainable ways of public-private partnerships that could alleviate the pressures of ever-growing unemployment rates in the country, reduce inequality and, of course, poverty. On this backdrop, the World Bank Group, in partnership with the government of Botswana, launched the new Botswana Country Private Sector Diagnostics, or Cpsd Report. According to the World Bank Group, the report highlights opportunities for growth and investment in Botswana and ways in which the country can achieve a more resilient, green and sustainable economic future, including through regulatory improvements and diversification. The report suggests interventions that Botswana can make to accelerate economic diversification and improve private sector participation, some of which are highlighted in the sit-down interview we had with Marie-Françoise Marinelli, who's World Bank Country Director for Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Namibia and South Africa, and Kevin Njiraini, who's International Finance Corporation's Regional Director. Kevin and Marie-Françoise, thank you so much for coming on First Issues and affording us your time today. We're talking the Cpsd Report as launched by the World Bank Group and the government of Botswana. Perhaps, Kevin, you could talk us through some of the key findings of this new report.
The Cpsd, or the Country Private Sector Diagnostic, looks at the challenges and opportunities that the private sector faces in any country. In the case of Botswana, our findings are that Botswana is ripe for economic transformation to ensure that it overcomes some of the challenges of the pandemic and really to lead to resilient and green recovery. The Cpsd tells us that Botswana can focus on a number of key enabling sectors. These sectors include energy, water, sanitation, and tourism. The term enabling is important because these sectors underpin the growth for many other sectors. Let us take energy as one example. If there is sustainable and affordable and consistent electricity, that helps sectors such as industrialization and overall economic growth. The Cpsd also looked at some of the overall challenges that are faced by the private sector and what are the reforms that are required to overcome these. Lastly, the findings looked at 2 other sectors which provide ample opportunities. These sectors include transportation, and by transportation we can refer to road and rail, as well as digital economy, everything from digital infrastructure to towers to data centers and so on.
So according to this report, what are some of the challenges that hamper private sector development in the country?
2 examples of challenges I could share. One of them is to enhance the role of the private sector. Our finding in Botswana and many other countries is that the private sector can play a key role in 2 areas. One, in increasing employment, and secondly, in reducing inequality, which is a key thing that many governments want. The other challenge is the reforms that are required to enable private sector investment. These reforms, if done, will certainly help the enabling sectors that we just discussed. And finally, is that the state plays a very key role in Botswana. And as important as the role of the state is, it's also important to create space for the private sector, space for competition. And this is one of the findings, that we need to enhance competition to allow the private sector to thrive in Botswana.
What then are the solutions that the CPSD is bringing forth to address these challenges, to maybe create jobs and reduce inequality?
One solution is to enhance access to finance to small and medium-scale enterprises, the SME sector. The SME sector has potential to dramatically improve employment in this country, and it is often referred to as the unseen sector. If you can enhance access to finance to SMEs by addressing the issues that SMEs face, such as collateral and security and so on, that is one solution. Another solution is to look at, for example, having a specific investment policy or investment law that makes the enabling environment more stable and more stable so that more and more private sector participants can participate in Botswana's private sector.
Marie-Françoise, Kevin has just been speaking to us about what the Cpsd report is in general and, some of the key findings that are in there. And he also spoke of the challenges. But I want you now to speak to the key strengths that are found within Botswana's economy that can be used to accelerate economic growth in the country. Does the Cpsd report speak to these and how the economy can leverage on them to mostly address issues of poverty?
Yes, it does. In fact, it's important to remind the viewers that Botswana is one of 13 countries that managed to sustain high growth over 4 decades in the world. And that translates, of course, into strong macroeconomic stability, good management of natural resource revenues. And as a result of that, the government was able to build infrastructure, also invest in human capital and develop skills, have low debt, and have significant savings from these revenues. So these are really good strengths. Now, how to maybe use that? I would say, first, government needs to continue to invest in human capital because we have a high unemployment ratio in the country, 26%. And in doing so, also facilitate, as Kevin has indicated before, not just MSMEs, but also entrepreneurship. I think that a lot can be done to do that. And it's not just access to finance, but also the enabling environment. How do you make sure that you can start a company or you can start an activities, remove the red tape, facilitate, access to services? I think that that should be a key element that that government could do, and that would be, the natural steps. The other one that I'm thinking of is that the economy is a significant public-led economy. So in opening these sectors where the government has significant investment, commercial sectors, that will create space for the private sector to engage and also for the youth.
We're in the COVID-19 era, and every country around the globe is looking for ways to revitalize their economies post the pandemic. And Kevin spoke of some sectors that we could look at as Botswana to do the same. But I want you now to expand further on his key points.
Absolutely. I think that building on the Botswana strength, you have livestock mid-value chain. I think that this sector could be restructured so that you can have more transformation in countries. You are already exporting to the EU, but in creating a more enabling environment, a good regulator, releasing, increasing the capacity for the private sector to engage, I see a lot of potential for this sector, not just for the European markets, but also for the sub-region. So that is one example. Secondly, we see that tourism is also rebounding. Actually, I'm just back from Europe and the plane was full. So Botswana can use the opportunity to give new strength to the tourism sector by engaging the local communities, having ecotourism, but also, looking at the regional tourists coming from the sub-region, and maybe having an adjusting strategy that will look not only at the niche market that they had before, the high end, but also a much more open market where we see now people are coming. So I think that these are some of the elements that I would suggest. But of course, beyond that, I would say that the digital is really the key one. There is potential. The government has a framework that needs to be expanded. And once this is in place, you see the potential from digital in government services, creating opportunity for the youth to get engaged and bring solution, in digital financial services, in platforms. So clearly, this is, in my view, the area where Botswana could leapfrog.
You know, roundtable conversations in the country are almost always characterized by discussions around how the economy can be diversified away from diamonds. And, you know, the key suggestions for doing that have always been manufacturing and agriculture. So my question to you now is the report offering any new suggestions?
Yes. Obviously, this is a critical issue because Botswana, as I indicated, has its own strength coming from really managing well natural resources, which is not an obvious thing. So we would like to recognize and acknowledge the strength of the country on that. But now, moving forward, I would say first, very often we look at new things, but I would say the basics. Making sure that red tape is removed, you know, really making an agile country where you want to start a company, and there are too many, you know, heavy procedures. So that would be really the first one that I would consider. And secondly, I think that I want to also expand on the green economy. I think that more and more countries are looking at the opportunity to develop, you know, a green economy. Botswana has potential to have a vast solar, you know, production. I was previously in Morocco, which also is a dry country like Botswana, and they have been able to expand on that. Thankfully, we see that the government is moving, but the good thing, you know, with the green economy is not only it will provide access to energy to large part of the countries. I went to the north and I saw how difficult it is sometimes to access to these services, to water. And for water, you need energy. But also, it can create the skills that are required for people to do maintenance of solar panels. And we can think of the green economy more broadly. So I would say that along with the digital, as I said before, the green economy could really be the focus and the difference that Botswana would make.